Chapter 5. The Heart of the Veil. The storm howled like a beast at the summit of Azure Peak, but amidst the chaos of wind and rain, a deep, resonant hum filled the air. It vibrated through the very bones of the mountain, shaking the earth beneath Elon's feet. The shard in his hand flared with brilliant light, its warmth searing, pulling him closer to the center of the disturbance. With every step, the light grew brighter, and the force of the energy became undeniable. Elon's breath quickened, his heart racing as the power around him intensified. The wind raged, the rain lashed at his face, but all he could focus on was the glowing fragment in his hand. The truth was before him, and the very air around him seemed to pulse with ancient power. "This is it," Elon whispered to himself, his voice lost in the tempest. "The heart, it's real." He had always thought the tales were myths, stories spun by the elders of Qinghe village to explain the forces of nature. But now, standing on the edge of the world, with the storm swirling around him like an endless tide, Elon knew the truth. The heart of the veil was not just a legend, it was alive, and he was its bearer. The energy surged again, as if answering his thoughts. The shard in his hand grew unbearably hot, and the winds around him shifted, spiraling toward the center of the peak. A rift began to form before him, its edges glowing with the same crimson light as the shard. It was a tear in the very fabric of reality, a breach between the mortal realm and something far darker. "Elon," the voice echoed again, a whisper on the wind. But this time, it wasn't just a whisper, it was a presence, a consciousness, ancient and infinite, reaching out from the rift. Elon's pulse quickened. Fear, excitement, and confusion gripped him all at once. Who are you?" Elon's voice trembled, but he couldn't stop himself from speaking. The response came in the form of a low, resonant hum, reverberating in the depths of his chest. The air around him thickened, and shadows seemed to move at the edge of his vision. "I am the heart," the voice answered, its tone both serene and terrifying. "I am the fragment of a broken world, the piece that has been lost, forgotten. You have awakened me." Elon's breath caught in his throat. He could feel the weight of the words, the gravity of the situation pressing down on him. "But why me?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper now, swallowed by the storm. "What do you want from me?" A deep silence followed, broken only by the relentless storm. Then, slowly, the voice responded. "The veil between realms is weakening, Elon. The balance that has held the world together is fracturing. The path to immortality lies within me, but so does the path to destruction. I offer you a choice." The wind howled louder, as if pushing him to answer. Elon closed his eyes, trying to steady himself. His mind raced. He was just a simple village boy, swept into something far larger than himself. The weight of the decision before him was beyond comprehension. The storm, the power, the voice, it all felt like a dream, an illusion. But deep down, he knew this was real. This was the moment that would shape his fate. "What is the choice?" he asked, his voice steadier now. The voice responded, the words chilling his bones. "Embrace the heart, and you will possess power beyond imagining. You will be the one to reshape the world. But beware, for the cost will be great. The forces you control will not be easily tamed. You will be hunted, and perhaps you will become the very thing you fear." The rift afore him pulsed again, the crimson light flickering like a dying flame. Elon could feel its pull, an almost irresistible compulsion to reach out, to claim it, to embrace the heart. The energy of the rift sang in his veins, its power promising strength, control, and an end to the suffering he had always known. But something within him recoiled. He remembered his village, the people he cared about, his mother, lost to illness when he was young, old Lou, always kind, always a steady hand when the world seemed too much to bear. Could he really risk everything for power? And if I refuse? Elon asked, his voice small now, filled with doubt. For the first time, the voice seemed to hesitate, as if pondering the answer. Then the world will continue on its path to destruction. The veil will tear, and chaos will reign. You cannot stop what has already begun, but you may choose to walk away, to live your life, a life of peace, if you can find it. The winds howled louder now, the storm shifting in intensity, as if it too were waiting for his decision. Elon's heart thundered in his chest as he looked down at the shard in his hand. The power was still there, burning with intensity, filling him with both fear and longing. Meanwhile, high above him, Yu Ling had reached the summit. She stood in the shadows, hidden by the mist and the storm, watching Elon through the haze. She had sensed the awakening of the heart, and now she had come to see it with her own eyes. Her hand rested on the hilt of Black Lotus, but she did not draw her sword. This was not a battle of steel, but of wills, of destiny. Elon's fate was now intertwined with the fate of the world. She waited, silent and patient, her eyes fixed on the boy at the center of the storm. Chapter 6. The Choice. The storm raged on, howling like an ancient, untamable beast. But for Elon, everything seemed to still in that moment. The world had fallen away, the rain, the wind, the very mountain beneath him, and all that remained was the pulsing energy of the heart of the veil and the voice that reverberated within him. "Embrace me, Elon." The voice was soft but filled with such authority that it seemed to shake the very air. "Come, take what is yours. Rewrite the fate of the world. The power is yours." The rift before him pulsed again, the crimson light flaring brighter, casting long shadows across the peak. It beckoned him, a promise of power, of immortality, of control over everything that had ever stood in his way. It was a force beyond comprehension, one that could erase suffering, control destiny, and shape the very fabric of reality. But as the light enveloped him, Elon's mind flashed back to the quiet days in Qinghe village. He remembered the simple life, the friends, the people who depended on him. He remembered old Lu's worn face, his stories of the world before the storm, and the peaceful nights by the fire. Could he really abandon all of that for power? Could he forsake the life he had known, the people he loved, to chase after something that could destroy them all? The shard in his hand burned with intensity, its warmth like a living thing, its energy feeding off his doubts and desires. It whispered again, a voice that seemed to come from deep within his soul. "You have always felt different, Elon. Alone, powerless. Now you can be more. You can be the one who shapes the future." Elon closed his eyes, his grip tightening around the shard. The wind screamed around him, the storm surging with a renewed fury. And yet, in that moment, Elon felt a strange stillness, an understanding. The heart's power was not just a gift, but a curse. It was the same power that had fractured the world in the first place, the power that had caused untold suffering. It could give him everything he had ever wanted, but at what cost? His thoughts flashed to Yu Ling, standing in the shadows at the edge of the summit, her eyes watching him, knowing that whatever he chose, the world would be forever changed. She had seen the way the storm was beginning to shift, how the forces of chaos were rising. Her presence reminded him of something crucial, something he had almost forgotten: balance. In his desire to overcome his limitations, to take control, had he forgotten the very thing that had always kept the world from falling into ruin? Balance was not something that could be controlled. It was something that had to be respected. Yu Ling stepped forward, her figure emerging from the shadows like a specter of fate itself. Her eyes met Elon's, and in that brief moment, the weight of the world seemed to press upon them both. "Elon," she said, her voice cutting through the storm, "the heart of the veil is not what you think it is. It will give you power, yes, but it will also take away everything that makes you human. The balance between light and dark, good and evil, it is fragile. If you embrace the heart, you will become something else, something beyond yourself." Elon turned to face her, his expression strained, the shard still glowing in his palm. His mind was a maelstrom of confusion, fear, and desire. Yu Ling was right. Embracing the heart could destroy him, destroy everything he loved. But how could he turn away from the power that was right in front of him? "And if I refuse?" he asked, his voice barely more than a whisper. Yu Ling's gaze softened, and for a moment the storm seemed to quiet, as if the world itself was holding its breath. "If you refuse," she began, "the world will change, but it does not have to end. The heart is not the only path to salvation, Elon. You can still walk the path of balance, the path of choice, not fate." Elon looked down at the shard in his hand. The storm still raged around him, but it felt different now, less like an enemy and more like a reflection of his inner turmoil. His fingers trembled, but he knew that the decision he made here would determine not only his future, but the future of the world itself. The voice of the heart echoed once more, louder this time, as if pressing him, pushing him toward the inevitable. "Choose, Elon. Embrace me, and you will be more than human. You will be eternal, all-powerful. You will have dominion over fate itself." Elon felt the heat of the shard burning against his skin, its energy pulsing, inviting him to take the final step into the unknown. He felt its power calling to the deepest parts of him, his desires, his pain, his dreams of something greater, but a part of him hesitated. He thought of his village again, the faces of those he had loved, the lives they had led together, the simple joy of a life that didn't need to be governed by power or fate, a life where balance, however fragile, was enough. His hand shook. The decision was clear now, clearer than it had ever been. With one last look at the heart, Elon stepped back, his chest tight with both fear and relief. "I refuse," he said, his voice firm, his heart steady. The wind howled louder, as if in protest, the storm intensifying once more. The rift flickered in the air before him, the crimson light dimming, its hold on him weakening. But the power of the heart wasn't gone. It lingered in the air, waiting. Yu Ling stepped forward, her eyes glowing with a mix of admiration and sadness. She had known the boy would make the right choice. "You've chosen the harder path," she said quietly, "but it's the one that will shape the future of this world." As the storm began to subside, the winds died down, leaving a quiet calm in their wake. The rift that had torn the sky asunder began to close, the energy dissipating into the ether. Elon felt the power of the heart fade, its presence still echoing in the back of his mind, but no longer controlling him. The world, for now, had been saved. Chapter 7: A New Dawn. The storm had passed. The winds had shifted, the rain ceased, and the once turbulent sky was now clear. A strange calmness settled over Azure Peak, the air still heavy with the remnants of the storm, but peaceful now, as if the world had exhaled a collective sigh of relief. Elon stood at the summit, his body drenched, but his mind clearer than it had been in what felt like an eternity. The shard in his hand had lost its glow, its heat fading to nothing. The rift that had opened before him had disappeared, leaving behind no trace of the ancient power it had held. But even as the world seemed to return to its natural order, Elon could feel the weight of his decision. The heart of the veil, the source of untold power, of unimaginable potential, was no longer in his grasp. He had turned away from it, rejected its promises of control, immortality, and dominion over fate. And yet, he felt no regret. For the first time, Elon felt a strange sense of peace, a stillness within him that had eluded him for most of his life. The world might change, but he had chosen to be part of that change, not through power, but through balance. Yu Ling approached him, her steps soft on the wet stones. She was as drenched as he was, but her expression was serene, as if the storm had never reached her. She stopped a few feet away from him, watching him carefully, as if waiting for something. Elon looked at her, his gaze steady but full of questions. I thought the storm would never end," he said quietly, his voice rough from the cold and the weight of the moment. Yu Ling's eyes softened, and she nodded. "The storm always ends, Elon. It's the aftermath we must face." He looked out over the peak, the now calm valley below. It felt like a new beginning, like the earth itself had been cleansed, reborn. But he knew, deep down, that what lay ahead would not be easy. His choice had set things in motion, and the world would not remain peaceful forever. "What happens now?" Elon asked, his voice uncertain. Yu Ling stepped closer, her presence calm, steady, a reminder of the balance she had always sought. "Now, you must learn to live with your choice. There will be those who will question your decision, and others who will seek to use your power or take it from you. The forces you turned away from will not be gone. They will simply wait for the right moment." Elon turned toward her, his brow furrowing in thought. "Will I ever be free of it?" he asked, his voice tinged with fear. "The heart, the power, the choice, will I always feel its presence?" Yu Ling was silent for a moment, as if weighing her answer carefully. "You will always feel its pull," she said, her voice soft but resolute. "Power, once touched, is never fully forgotten. But the key is not to let it control you. You have chosen balance, and balance requires constant vigilance." She looked at him, a faint smile playing at the corner of her lips. "You are no longer the boy from Qinghe village, Elon, but you are not yet the man who will shape the world. The journey ahead will not be easy, but you have the strength to walk it." As the two of them stood there, the clouds above finally parted, revealing the bright, unbroken sky. The sun's first rays shone through, casting a warm, golden light over the mountaintop, and for a moment, everything felt right. But as the light touched Elon's face, he couldn't help but feel that his journey was far from over. He had chosen the harder path, the path of balance, of peace. But the forces of chaos, of fate, were never far behind. A new chapter had begun, not just for him, but for the world. Back in Qinghe village, the floodwaters had finally receded. The villagers had worked together to rebuild, their faces weary but filled with hope. Old Lu stood at the edge of the village, looking up toward Azure Peak. He had felt the storm pass, felt the shift in the world, and though he did not fully understand what had happened, he knew that the boy who had left was not the same as the one who would return. The world had changed, and so had Elon. Far from the peaceful peak, in the darkened halls of the Night Lotus cult, Mo Ran, the cult leader, sat in deep thought. The storm had shaken the foundations of the world, and in its wake he saw opportunities that could change the balance of power. The boy has chosen. Mo Ran's voice was a low whisper, like a shadow moving in the dark. But the heart is not so easily discarded. He will come to regret his decision, and when he does, we will be ready. His eyes glinted with a quiet malice, the storm outside reflecting the turmoil within. At the very edge of the world, in the silent valley, the elder of the valley watched the sunrise through the trees, his expression unreadable. He had seen the heart awaken and felt its influence ripple through the realms. He knew that Elon's choice had set things in motion, but the true consequences were yet to be revealed. "The veil is thinning," the elder murmured. "The world will change, and it will be up to those who walk the path of balance to decide how it changes." As Elon made his way down the mountain, Yu Ling at his side, he knew that his journey had just begun. The storm had passed, but the true test of his decision lay ahead. The forces of power, chaos, and destiny would always be at play, but now he had the strength to choose his path. A new dawn had come. Chapter 8. The Path Ahead. The journey down Azure Peak felt different. The path no longer an uphill battle against nature's fury, but a quiet descent toward an unknown future. The storm that had ravaged the land was now nothing more than a memory. The skies cleared to a brilliant blue. But Elon's thoughts remained clouded with uncertainty. He had chosen balance, a path that seemed frail compared to the promises of power and immortality that the heart had offered. Yet something within him told him that it had been the right choice. The peaceful life of his village, the simple joys of everyday existence still echoed in his heart. The heart, with all its promises of greatness, had been a lure, an illusion of control. He had rejected it, but he also knew the world was far from simple. Beside him, Yu Ling walked with steady steps, her presence a quiet reassurance in the shifting winds. Though she had not spoken much since they left the peak, Elon could sense that she was watching him, waiting for him to process everything that had happened. Finally, Elon broke the silence. "What happens now?" he asked, his voice soft but filled with a mixture of resolve and doubt. Yu Ling's gaze was distant, her eyes scanning the horizon as if searching for answers. She took a deep breath, the wind moving through her hair like a whisper of the past. "Now we begin to rebuild," she said quietly. "The storm was only the beginning. The true consequences of your choice will unfold over time. The world is already shifting, and those who crave power will not stop. There are many who will want what you rejected." Elon nodded, a chill running down his spine as he thought about the forces that had stirred within the heart. He had been the one to reject it, but the ripples of that decision would spread far beyond him. "The heart isn't gone," he said slowly. "I can still feel it. Its pull deep in my chest. It hasn't left me, has it?" Yu Ling's expression softened, her eyes meeting his. "No, it hasn't," she said. Once you touch the heart, it never truly leaves. The power you turned away from is still a part of you, but that doesn't mean it controls you. It's a choice you make every day, to either let it guide you or to keep walking the path you've chosen. Elon's hand instinctively went to his chest, where the shard had been moments before, now long gone. He could feel its energy, distant but present, like a shadow at the edge of his mind. The pull was still there, a reminder that his journey was far from over. "How do I keep walking this path?" he asked. "How do I stay on this road without falling into the same trap as those who seek the heart for power?" Yu Ling smiled faintly, a rare expression of warmth. "One step at a time," she said. "It's not about perfection, it's about balance. There will always be temptation. There will always be those who seek to tip the scales in their favor, but you have to find the strength to stay true to your own path." Elon felt her words settle deep within him, like a seed being planted in his heart. Balance. It wasn't just about rejecting power, but about embracing something greater than himself. It was a path of self-discipline, of constant vigilance, but it was a path he could walk, and one he could choose every day. As they descended the mountain, a strange feeling lingered in the air. The world was quieter than it had been moments ago. The storm had passed, yes, but it felt like the calm before another storm. Back in Qinghe village, word of the storm had already spread, and the villagers had begun to rebuild what had been damaged. Old Liu stood at the river's edge, looking out at the horizon, a silent worry clouding his features. The storm had passed, but there was a sense that something had changed, something deeper than the weather. The heart of the veil, the ancient force that had nearly torn the world apart, was no longer in Elon's hands, but its influence had not disappeared. In the distance, across the valley, a dark figure watched from the shadows, hidden by the trees and mist. The figure's eyes gleamed with a cold, calculating light. Mo Ran, leader of the Night Lotus cult, had been waiting. "The boy has made his choice," Mo Ran murmured, his voice low and filled with quiet malice. "But the heart will find its way back to me. The veil may have weakened, but it is not gone, and neither am I." His fingers drummed rhythmically on the arm of his chair, a thoughtful expression crossing his face. The heart was only a part of the puzzle. What he truly sought was far more elusive, but Elon, whether he realized it or not, had become a key player in the game. The Night Lotus cult had always operated in the shadows, seeking to control the ebb and flow of power in the world. But now, with the heart stirring once again, it was time for them to act. Mo Ran would not let the opportunity slip through his fingers. "Soon, the boy will understand the true weight of his choice," Mo Ran said, his voice growing colder. "And when he does, he will have no choice but to accept his role in the coming storm." Elon's mind lingered on the events that had transpired as they neared the foot of the mountain. Yu Ling had said that the forces of power would not stop, that there would always be those who sought to control the heart. But what was the heart? Was it just power or something more? And if it was truly a force that could change the world, how could he be sure that his decision would lead to the peace he had envisioned? He glanced at Yu Ling, who was walking beside him, her pace steady and sure. "Do you think I made the right choice?" he asked. She stopped for a moment, her eyes searching his. Then she nodded. "I do," she said, "but that's something only you can know. Every decision we make shapes our path. The heart was only a piece of the puzzle. The world is bigger than one man, and so are you." The words seemed to echo in his mind, repeating over and over as they walked toward the village. Whatever lay ahead, he knew one thing for certain: the future was not set in stone. He still had the power to shape it, but only if he stayed true to himself. As they entered Qinghe village, the villagers greeted them, their faces full of relief and gratitude. Elon knew that he had made the right choice, but the road ahead would be long. The forces of power, of destiny, were still at play, and his role in the unfolding world was only just beginning. And as the sun set on the horizon, a new chapter began for him, not as a boy from a small village, but as someone who had chosen his own fate. A new dawn had arrived, but what would it bring?